Have you ever felt that there's a part of you, hidden beneath layers of responsibilities, expectations, and routines, that yearns to be free? That part is your inner child, that luminous aspect of your psyche that Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant psychologists of all time, described as fundamental to our wholeness. Today we're going to explore how, when you connect with that inner child and allow her to smile, your entire energetic vibration transforms. Think about it for a moment. When was the last time you did something simply because it made you happy? Not because it was productive, not because it impressed someone else, but because it awakened that pure, genuine joy you felt when you were a child? Jung discovered that this connection with our inner child is not a whim or an exercise in nostalgia. It's a deep psychological need that determines our emotional and spiritual health. In his work on the collective unconscious, Jung identified what he called the archetype of the divine child. This figure represents our purest essence, that part of us that exists before wounds, before social conditioning. When your inner child smiles, you're reconnecting with that original essence, and that reconnection generates a vibration so powerful that it can literally transform every aspect of your life. Today's world constantly pushes us outward. Social media, news, others' opinions. Everything competes for our attention, drawing us further away from that inner voice that knows exactly what we need. Jung warned about this danger decades ago, long before the digital age. He understood that true individuation, that process of becoming who you really are, can only occur when you dare to look inward, when you have the courage to listen to that child who lives within you. Imagine for a moment what would happen if you allowed that inner child to make some decisions in your life. What would she choose? Perhaps more time to play, to create, to marvel at the little things. Maybe she would choose relationships that nurture her instead of draining her. She would probably refuse to spend hours in a job that dims her light. And most importantly, she would choose to love herself unconditionally without the restrictions and judgments that we constantly impose on ourselves as adults. Jung discovered in his clinical practice that those patients who managed to connect with their inner child experienced profound healing. It wasn't simply an improvement of symptoms, but a complete transformation in their way of perceiving the world and themselves. It's as if, by allowing that part of you to smile, you activate a switch that illuminates rooms of your being that have been in darkness for years. But there's an important obstacle on this path: fear. You fear that if you allow that inner child to express herself, you'll lose control. You fear being judged, rejected, or considered immature. This fear is not accidental. It's the result of years of conditioning. Society teaches us from early on that growing up means abandoning that spontaneity, that natural curiosity, that capacity for wonder that characterizes children. Jung radically questioned this idea. For him, true maturity doesn't consist of repressing the inner child, but of consciously integrating it into our adult personality. Think about the most creative, inspiring, and authentic people you know. Don't you notice in them a special glow, a spontaneity, a capacity to enjoy that distinguishes them? What you see is their inner child expressing itself freely, without the restrictions that most of us impose on ourselves. And that genuine expression generates such a high vibration that it naturally attracts positive experiences, nurturing relationships, and opportunities that resonate with their true essence. Jung spoke extensively about the shadow, those parts of ourselves that we repress and deny. For many, especially in a culture obsessed with productivity and material success, the inner child has become part of that shadow. We've relegated it to a dark corner of our psyche, ashamed of its vulnerability, its need for play, its desire to be loved simply for existing, not for what it achieves or produces. Reconciling with that inner child requires courage. The courage to question many of the beliefs you've adopted about what it means to be a successful or responsible adult. The courage to ask yourself, how many of my daily decisions are based on fear, on the need for approval, on inertia, And how many truly resonate with my most authentic essence? Jung firmly believed that each of us has a unique purpose, what he called the personal myth. This purpose is not something you can discover intellectually or copy from someone else. It's something that emerges naturally when you allow all parts of yourself to express and collaborate. Your inner child instinctively knows this purpose. She remembers your purest joys, your natural talents, what made you lose track of time when you were little. Do you remember those moments from your childhood when you were so absorbed in something you loved doing that the outside world disappeared? Maybe drawing, dancing, exploring nature, inventing stories. In those moments, you were in what current psychologists call a flow state, but which Jung had already identified as moments of deep connection with the collective unconscious, with the universal creative source. Your inner child knows how to access that state. She remembers the way when your adult, analytical and fearful mind has forgotten it. But reconciling with your inner child doesn't mean returning to childish naivety or evading adult responsibilities. Jung was very clear about this. Psychological integration doesn't mean going backward, but forward toward a more complete and authentic way of being. It means bringing the spontaneity, curiosity, and capacity for wonder of the child into your adult life, combining them with the wisdom, discernment, and capacity for action that you've developed over the years. When you begin this process of reconciliation, something extraordinary happens. You start to notice synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that Jung studied deeply. People, situations, and opportunities that resonate with your true essence begin to appear in your life, as if the universe were responding to your new energetic vibration. It's not magic, although it may seem like it. It's the natural result of aligning your outer life with your inner truth. The modern world has conditioned us to believe that happiness is outside, in the next achievement, in the next purchase, in the perfect relationship. Jung radically challenged this view. He understood that true happiness arises when we honor the totality of our being, when we stop fragmenting ourselves into social roles and dare to be authentic. And that authenticity begins with recognizing and loving our inner child. This child is not weak or in need of being disciplined or controlled as many believe. On the contrary, she is the source of our vitality, creativity, and capacity for genuine connection. When you repress her, when you ignore her emotional needs, when you shame her for her sensitivity or enthusiasm, you're cutting off the flow of your own vital energy. Jung observed this phenomenon in countless patients. The more disconnected they were from their inner child, the more symptoms of depression, anxiety, or existential emptiness they presented. Think for a moment. What would you say to that child you once were? Would you judge her for her dreams, for her sensitivity, for her desire to be loved and seen? Or would you give her the unconditional love she deserves? The way you answer these questions reflects your current relationship with your inner child. And that relationship largely determines your capacity to experience genuine joy, to create authentic relationships, and to manifest a life that truly resonates with who you are. Jung introduced the concept of individuation to describe the process of integrating all parts of our psyche, conscious and unconscious, into a coherent whole. This process doesn't happen automatically. It requires intention, attention, and a constant commitment to our inner truth. The inner child plays a crucial role in this journey, as she represents our original authenticity before we learn to use masks to fit into different social contexts. When your inner child smiles, when you allow her to express herself through you, your energetic vibration changes dramatically. You become a magnet for experiences that nourish your soul instead of draining your energy. People notice it, although they can't always explain what has changed in you. There's a special glow in your eyes, an authenticity in your presence that is magnetic. Jung called it the manifestation of the self, that state of fullness that arises when all parts of you are in harmony. But this path is not without challenges. As you reconnect with your inner child, you'll also encounter the wounds she has suffered over the years. Moments when her enthusiasm was ridiculed, when her needs were ignored, when she learned that she wasn't enough just as she was. Jung emphasized the importance of embracing and healing these wounds as an essential part of the individuation process. You can't simply pretend they don't exist. You need to acknowledge them with compassion and understanding. This healing process doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey of self-discovery that unfolds over time. There will be days when you'll feel fully connected to your most authentic essence, and others when old defenses and patterns will reappear. Jung reminded us that this is normal and expected. What's important is not perfection, but the ongoing commitment to your inner truth. A powerful way to begin this journey is to ask yourself each day, what would make my inner child happy today? Maybe it's dedicating time to a creative activity you've abandoned. Perhaps it's playing, dancing, or simply allowing yourself to daydream. Or maybe it's establishing clearer boundaries with people who drain your energy, or taking a step toward that dream you've postponed out of fear or practicality. Each small action that honors your inner child raises your energetic vibration and brings you closer to a life that truly resonates with your essence. Jung observed that many people seek spiritual or philosophical answers without first having established a healthy relationship with their inner child. For him, this was like starting to build a house from the roof. Genuine connection with something greater than yourself begins with connection to yourself, to all parts of your being, especially those you've denied or repressed. Your inner child is, in many ways, your bridge to the spiritual dimension of existence, for she preserves that capacity for wonder, that openness to the mysterious that as adults we tend to lose. Imagine how your life would be if every decision you made was aligned with your inner child's joy, not with her momentary whims or impulses, but with her innate wisdom about what truly nourishes and expands you. What relationships would you maintain? What kind of work would you choose? How would you organize your time? What priorities would you have? Jung invites us to consider these questions not as a hypothetical exercise, but as a compass for our daily life. Society often makes us believe that we must choose between being responsible or being happy, as if the two were mutually exclusive. Jung challenged this false dichotomy. For him, true responsibility includes being faithful to our essential nature, to our unique purpose. Ignoring or repressing your inner child in the name of maturity or duty is not being responsible. It's avoiding the most fundamental responsibility you have, to live authentically. When your inner child smiles, when you allow her to guide you toward what truly makes you happy, not only do you benefit, your entire environment transforms. You become a presence that inspires others to connect with their own authenticity. Jung observed this phenomenon constantly. The individuation process of one person has a ripple effect that impacts their entire community. It's as if by raising your own vibration, you also raise the energetic frequency of those around you. One of the reasons many people avoid this inner work is the fear of what they might discover. They fear that if they listen to their inner child, she will ask them to make drastic changes in their life, decisions that might seem irresponsible or selfish from the outside. Jung recognized this fear, but also pointed out its paradox. What's truly irresponsible is living disconnected from your essence, making decisions based on external expectations or a false sense of duty. Your inner child doesn't want to destroy your life. She wants to make it fuller, more authentic, more aligned with your true nature. Sometimes this may involve significant changes, it's true, but these changes, although initially challenging, lead you toward greater internal coherence, toward that sense of peace that only arises when you stop fighting against yourself. Jung observed that many people reach the middle of their life feeling deeply dissatisfied despite having fulfilled everything that was expected of them. This midlife crisis, as we call it today, is actually a crisis of authenticity. It's the moment when the inner child, repressed for decades, begins to make herself heard more forcefully, refusing to continue being ignored. You can experience this crisis as a depression, as a feeling of emptiness, or as an inexplicable restlessness. Or you can recognize it for what it really is, an invitation to reconnect with your most authentic essence. You don't need to wait for a crisis to begin this journey. You can start today with small acts of recognition and love toward your inner child. You can ask her what she needs, what would make her feel seen and valued. You can dedicate time to activities that nurture her creative and playful spirit. You can defend her emotional needs against people or situations that ignore or belittle them. Each of these acts raises your energetic vibration and brings you closer to that fullness that Jung considered our natural right. The path of individuation that Jung described doesn't have an endpoint. It's an ongoing process of self-discovery and self-creation. But each step you take in the direction of your inner truth, each moment when you allow your inner child to express herself freely, generates an expansive wave of transformation. Your relationship with yourself changes, your relationships with others become more authentic, your perception of the world broadens and deepens. Jung taught us that our highest purpose as human beings is to become fully who we are. Not who we think we should be, not who others expect us to be, but those unique people we came to be. And that journey begins with a simple but profoundly revolutionary act, allowing your inner child to smile, to play, to dream, to feel safe and loved exactly as she is. When you do that, something magical happens. That inner smile is reflected in everything you do. Your work becomes more creative and meaningful. Your relationships deeper and more nourishing. Your connection to life itself more intense and joyful. It's no coincidence that the most innovative, inspiring, and transformative people throughout history have kept that spark of childhood alive within them. Einstein spoke of the importance of wonder. Picasso said he had spent his entire adult life learning to paint like a child. And Jung himself considered the capacity for play essential for psychological health. Your inner child is not a secondary or dispensable aspect of your personality. She is the very core of your authenticity, the seed of your highest potential. When you allow her to flourish, when you honor her needs and her innate wisdom, your entire energetic vibration rises. You align not only with yourself, but with something greater. Call it synchronicity, universe, or the collective unconscious that Jung studied so deeply. This alignment is not abstract or merely philosophical. It manifests in your everyday reality. You begin to notice patterns, to recognize opportunities that previously went unnoticed, to feel guided toward people and experiences that resonate with your true essence. Jung observed this phenomenon again and again. When we align internally, the outer world seems to reorganize itself to reflect that new coherence. Your inner child is your connection to the source of creativity, joy, and fullness that you carry within. She knows what you truly need, beyond the distractions and conditioning of modern life. She remembers your purpose, your personal myth, when your conscious mind has forgotten it. And when you allow her to guide you, when you give her voice and space to express herself, your entire life transforms. Jung reminded us that the purpose of self-knowledge is not simply to understand ourselves better, but to live more fully. It's not just about intellectually understanding who we are, but about embodying that understanding in every aspect of our life. When your inner child smiles, when you recognize and honor her as an essential part of your being, that smile radiates outward, transforming not only your perception of the world, but the world itself. Because as Jung discovered, what happens within us and what happens outside are not separate realities. They are aspects of the same continuum. By raising your internal vibration, you also raise the energetic frequency of your environment. You become a catalyst for transformation, a presence that inspires others to reconnect with their own authenticity, with their own inner child. This is perhaps the most valuable gift you can offer the world, your full and radiant authenticity. Not what you think others want to see or hear, not the socially acceptable version of you, but your complete and imperfect truth. Jung believed this was an act of courage that the world desperately needs, the courage to be fully oneself, with all the vulnerabilities, contradictions, and potentialities that implies. So today, right now, I invite you to pause, to close your eyes for a moment and visualize that child you once were. What does she need from you? What would she tell you if she could speak freely? What changes would she ask for in your current life? Listen to her carefully, without judging her answers. because in those answers you'll find invaluable keys to raising your vibration, to aligning your life with your deepest truth. And if this message has resonated with you, if you feel that spark of recognition that arises when something touches your inner truth, share it. Share it with someone who may be struggling to reconnect with their own essence, someone who has forgotten how to let their inner child smile. In a world that constantly pushes us toward disconnection, toward uniformity, toward the denial of our uniqueness, sharing this message is an act of love and resistance. Remember, when your inner child smiles, your internal vibration soars, and when your vibration rises, everything in your life begins to transform. Relationships that no longer resonate with your essence naturally dissolve, while new connections, more aligned and nourishing, begin to form. Opportunities that previously seemed impossible appear in your path. Internal resources you didn't know you had awaken and activate. Jung observed this phenomenon so many times that he considered it a psychological law. What we honor internally manifests externally. What we repress or deny doesn't disappear. It simply projects into our environment, creating situations that reflect our internal disconnection. But when we consciously and lovingly integrate all parts of our being, including our inner child, our outer world begins to reflect that new coherence. This is the most important journey you will ever undertake. The journey back to yourself, to your most essential truth. It's not a path you travel once and for all. It's an ongoing commitment to your authenticity, a daily practice of internal listening and self-honesty. There will be days when it will be easier for you, and others when the old patterns of disconnection will reappear. What's important is not perfection, but direction. If this message has touched you, if you felt that inner resonance that arises when something connects with your truth, let me know in the comments. Share how you plan to honor your inner child today, what concrete actions you'll take to raise your energetic vibration. And if you know someone who might benefit from this message, share it. In a world that constantly pushes us toward disconnection, sharing these truths is an act of love and service. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos that will help you on this journey of self-discovery and self-realization. Remember that you're not alone on this path. We are a community of seekers, supporting each other on this journey toward greater authenticity and fullness. Jung believed that each of us has the innate capacity to heal, to integrate all parts of our being into a coherent and radiant whole. Your inner child is an essential part of that whole. When you allow her to smile, when you honor her needs and her wisdom, you're activating a transformative power that will not only change your life, but will positively impact everyone around you. So today, right now, make a commitment to yourself. A commitment to listen to, honor, protect, and celebrate that wonderful child who lives within you. Because when she smiles, your vibration rises. And when your vibration rises, everything is possible. Thank you for being here, for dedicating this time to your inner growth. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, the most important journey you will ever undertake is the journey back to yourself. Don't postpone it. Your inner child is waiting for you.